your own citizens living in your own country like tourists. Cameroonians, to be honest, live in their country like strangers. You move in many places, you find a disorder that is created only by the Cameroonians themselves. Are you going to say who is going to take care of that? So we need to understand that a country is just like a home. A man who has a family and has to build that family and put a legacy for that family. So if Cameroon is going to work, every Cameroonian is going to take the praise that they have done a good job.
The political parties, you say they are there for their businesses, 300 and above. Now, the civil society also. We had most of the civil society guys talk somehow at the beginning of the crisis, but we don't find them anywhere. Especially with the growing killings across the nation, nobody is offering themselves up for mediation. Nobody is putting pressure either on the government or on the separatists.
Yeah, you will realize that, Mr. Leo, that the government that we have has been equally become very ruthless.
Okay.
A government where human rights are no longer respected. Remember, journalists have been arrested. Some have been tortured to death. A lot of journalists have equally abandoned the country, Cameroon, because of their manner of reporting. Remember when people like Barrister Agbombala, at the beginning, they were talking on behalf of a consortium. The consortium was not a lawyer association. The consortium, we consider them as a civil society group that was defending the interests of Southern Cameroonians. They were all bundled up, arrested, and sent to prison. And so a lot of those that were considered of a civil society ruthless base, or what I call a non-nonsense group of civil society activists, a lot of them have abandoned the struggle, and others are even minding their tongue now. When you threatened or you control the right of freedom of expression in an atmosphere where everybody is trying to suggest or give ideas on how we can quell down a situation, and that those that don't support the action of what the government is doing are considered as the evils against the nation. Remember, we are equally talking, even though we may say some political parties, we equally salute some efforts like that of Professor Moise Kamto, whom several times has made the Anglophone crisis a priority within his political agenda. And on that note, they said there was a meeting between Kamto and many separatists to buy arms and come and fight.
But we saw separate the separatists themselves who said Kamto deceived them now.
Yeah, it is not a matter of deceive. What we are saying now is, from the time Kamto went to prison to when he came out, his non-participation in the last parliamentary elections, one of the agenda. I don't know what happened in Berlin because I was not there, but I'm telling you what I read on papers and what I listened within his presentation was that the Anglophone crisis should be made a priority, and that before any elections, we should try to find solutions, long-lasting solutions to this particular crisis. So we meet a lot of the civil society activists, some of us equally who even come here and speak every day. It's not very easy that some people even meet you on the highway and start quarreling that you are the people who are saying that Cameroon is not good. I don't know where we will feel that Cameroon should not be good when we live within the same state, Cameroon. And I'm saying several times that the ideas and opinion which we share here, after real academic research and what we might have acquired, I will feel that our nation, Cameroon, should be a proud destination, not a country that people drag in and consider that they are stronger than the state. Yet Mr. Ebako made me to feel a bit, I was distressed when he said the United States has a more bigger problem than Cameroon do. And I'm telling him that the United States does not suffer from individual or institutional problems, and that the United States will hopefully and many times have found solution to its problem, economic, politically, or socially. The United States have been at the top of even helping your own nation, with several times such opinions are given. Cameroonians promised a lot of death threats to the U.S. ambassador, who called the head of state that I believe it is time in 2018 that you should step down and maintain your legacy so that Cameroonians will keep on hailing you as one of those leaders. But I'm telling you that after 2018, he will equally confirm. The head of state himself included that when I took power in 1982, it is not a situation. I might leave this power in 2025 or 2024 because this was not the country I took over. Tribalism had become an order of the day. Bribery and corruption, where we have always passed very well, it comes to negativism. We're about organizing the African Nations Cup, one single event. After more than 40 years, we've been unable to organize. Telling you that if Cameroon could host a Nation Cup 12 years after independence, what has happened that 40 years after, we cannot organize a common continental jamboree. There are a lot of problems more than the Anglophone crisis. Yes, Dr. Nick equally make you to understand that when people gathered in Yaoundé, in what they call the major national dialogue, because the Anglophone problem was looked upon as a Cameroonian problem, and then they tried to solve the issue of Cameroonians, the Anglophone problem, which is a monster, remains. And that is why the right treatment was not given. The civil society group, a lot of people equally work from out of the country. You remember, we were part of another consultative talk. How can we get initiate dialogue in Cameroon? Yes, some of us have participated in such forums. When Dr. Need mentioned of the Swiss talk, you remember that one of the pillars of the Swiss talk, why it is not going on, is the refusal on the part of the government not to negotiate with anybody. The government feels that he has the knife and the yam, and that the Swiss people are not okay with the politics in Yaoundé, which means to them that if there is any discussion in Switzerland, there is already a decision which is passed to condemn the government rather than working for a sincere neutral decision. Okay, so the government too is still, what is delaying, I'm telling you, that there is lack of a will to negotiate on the part of the government that would maybe restore lasting peace in these two regions. Okay,
Dr. Nick, he says that as civil society organizations, you mean that they have been frightened to sit quiet, but we also have not heard much from the traditional rulers, especially with this new wave of killings. Are they helpless, seemingly no urgency? In our MPs and senators, we've not heard them openly come out to condemn the killings on both sides.
Well, you know, a moment ago when I was talking, I mentioned to you about, I was making this illustration about the road from Bamenda to Bafistan. As long as that road is rugged, if you have a Mercedes-Benz, if you have a Toyota, if you have call a car, any brand. So these different cars are the civil society, the funds, the politicians, the whoever. Nobody can venture on that road because the contractor has not done a job. It's only an aeroplane that can do it. All right. So when you see everybody giving up, it's because if we were using wisdom and doing what we had to do, the problem would have been solved. But we chose to use human wisdom and not divine wisdom. And we have ego problems. We just fail to understand problems and solve them and face them squarely. That is the problem. So, and then to make it worse, you remember we had a whole parliament and a whole senate. The war was going on for 4 years, and they would not entertain it. Nobody would talk about it. So you see, everybody.
But that's my worry now.
Yes. So it tells you it's about a mindset. It's about a people who think only of their stomachs. It's about a people who live in fear. It's about a people who don't stand by the truth. So when you have people like that and you are expecting them to solve a problem, it doesn't work. Because if the parliament had, if the whole nation has seen the parliament standing up, what is this thing? How can we solve it? And all ministers standing up, what is this thing? How can we solve it? Everybody kind of like, what is this thing? How can we solve it? And people genuinely looking for the solution, it would have been solved a long time ago. But what we did was, you know, imposition arrêtée. That is, you know, there was a problem, and then a solution came from somewhere, and the solution was put there, and then now you are driving everyone else, you know, towards that solution, not letting people actually, you know, look at all the options and then appropriate these things to themselves and say, yes, this is our solution. So that is the problem. So don't bother the civil societies. The civil societies are just, let's say, weak human beings like you and I, sitting out there, especially many of them in the ground zero. So you speak about your mind when something is starting, when the phenomenon of the dogs of war have not yet set in, where there seems to be where people are still reasonable and they still have their thinking caps. But when the dogs of war have set in, when the dogs are eating their masters, It doesn't matter what you say. You know, see what happens. If you like, Mr. Bako was saying, you see that the boys. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as you have something to offer. If they see you there, you are part of their meat. You know, they no longer distinguish who is who. As long as you have bread in your pocket, as long as they can use you to boost their ego and say we caught a big fish like they did to the cardinal, they will catch you. You see? So at the end of the day, it's a confused picture, and we need to move out of this confused picture very, very quickly. Just before I give you back the microphone, just to comment on something that Dr. Ako said, to say that politics is a game of opportunists, and there is very little love in politics. And once I observed Professor Kamto a lot and very closely, and when he was gunning for his positions or his whatever, he only used the Anglophones as a shield, or he used them, he's fronting the Anglophones, but in reality, he does not love Anglophones. In reality, he doesn't want to solve the problem of Anglophones. And you can see that in some of his actions. Before he took on his trip to Canada, I was not so sure where he stood. But when he went to Canada, the way he behaved in Canada, when he was asked a question about Anglophones and what he said, I knew we were dealing with someone who was just fronting the Anglophone problem just to cover up. And then when he went down to America, he changed his language. Then coming back home, you know, he has this shadow cabinet of his. Look at that cabinet and see how many Anglophones are in there. There are just a couple of these things. And you know, he has been saying, okay, we need to change the electoral code. What is that thing called?
Electoral code.
Correct. And you know, I don't take those things lightly. I meditate on them and so on. And after having meditated for a very long time, I looked very closely at the MRC. I looked very closely at the SDF. I looked very closely at Cabral Libi. And then I looked closely at the CPDM. Then I listened and I drew wisdom from what Bishop Nicholas Duncan from Canada said. You know Bishop Nicholas Duncan from Canada? He's a big guy. I think he's probably bigger than Dr. Ako here. And he wears white and white. You know him? Yes. And Bishop Duncan said something that makes a lot of sense. And I remember talking with some friends, and they said what Africa needs, what Cameroon needs. It's not these 300 political parties, this one and so on. All what they are doing, it doesn't matter what Kamto is telling you or SDA is telling you. All they want is CPM, get away, let us also come and eat. That's all. That's all. To say that they will solve the problem is a lie, because in reality, and I challenge all of you in the CPDM, SDF, not CPDM, SDF, MRC, whatever. Let's come to an open debate, and I would ask you economic questions, how you will solve those problems, and I will tell you that, and I will prove to you that you have no intention to solve any problem. All you are looking for is say, okay, give me the seat, I will show you how to solve the problem, but you don't know how to solve the problem, because if you knew how to solve the problem, you will be showing me your own factory. You will not be talking about it. Now, that said, we have a real problem. And what we need in Africa, listen to me, Africans, and in Cameroon, democracy has failed in Africa. We might have an advanced version of it in Cameroon, but the bottom line is democracy as it is has failed in Africa. And what you also want to understand about democracy is something I also read. When I first read it the first time, it didn't make sense. The majority is not always right. You agree with me?
100%.
Yes, the majority, an uninformed majority, is not necessarily right. Just because you're in the majority doesn't mean you are right.
That's correct.
No. And that's why sometimes everybody can be doing something that is evil. You don't do an evil thing because the majority are doing it, because the majority are not right. A right thing remains a right thing, whether you are alone or whatever. So the bottom line is, it's an issue between good and evil, right and wrong. And what you need to be able to pull Cameroon and many other countries like this is not democracy. You need a kind of a leader. And it's I learned this term from Mr. Tamfo Harrison. And he says that what we need in Cameroon and most African countries, you need a benevolent despot. A benevolent despot who is a benevolent despot. If you take someone like the president of Chad, he has the mindset of a benevolent despot. If you take someone like Sankara, who was killed, he has the mindset of a benevolent despot.
Kagame in Rwanda.
Yes, Kagame in Rwanda, he has the mindset of a benevolent despot. Who is a benevolent despot? Number one, he is a leader with great leadership qualities. For starters, he knows what is good for his nation. He knows common good. He knows what is good. Then he does not go to his ministers and to his parliament to ask, what do you think about this? He says, okay, I'm going to build a beautiful road from Yaoundé to Douala. And it's like, is it a good thing? It's a good thing. He says, okay, we build a road, un point entre. It's not for discussion and so on. That is the way it's done. Should we change the educational system in Cameroon? Yes, we change it.
Okay.
That's
okay.
Sorry for taking so much time.
You're making a lot of sense.
Okay. Paddy Asanga is on standby. Paddy, you have been following the discussions so far. We've struggled severally to get to you to no avail. We hope you are standing by. Your first reaction to the wave of killings ongoing in Cameroon?
Yes. I want to first of all starting by wishing all of you a happy new year, to my senior brother Dr. Ningwanyam, to Ebaku, and to Dr. Ako John Ako. You know, distance is separating us, but all of us have that lovely space that we call Cameroon that was legated to us by Ndetumaza, Abemokong, and the UPCists, who were those people who really found out that we had to avoid what we are in today. So I want to congratulate you, Leo, for all the merits that you had prior to the end of the year, for your intellectual honesty and your journalistic prowesses. So Dr. Ningwayam, Happy New Year. Ebako, Happy New Year. Dr. John Ako, Happy New Year.
Thank you.
So, yes. So that's just to plant the decoration, to let you guys know that we are very distant, but we are here as privileged slaves, and we are here as somebody like myself. I call myself the collector of the colonial debts, because I have nothing to do than to send everything that I have back home to help my family, because I never asked the white boys to come and colonize us. So talking about the killings that happened, it is something regrettable, but unfortunately, we have a government that has not put anything in place for that to stop. But we Cameroonians and we people who think differently as those who are in power should start doing our homework and make sure that things are put in place. So it's a very, very sad situation, unless you want to get into the corridors and ask me what I know about the killings and what I don't know about the killings. But as far as my feelings are concerned, or what I think about the killings, I think it is something that was not supposed to happen. It was supposed to be prevented and should have never happened, because you have to understand that we spend our time talking about America, talking about France, we're talking about US, Britain, and so on and so forth, but there is no white boy dying on the field. When the white boy, they want to stage their proxy wars, they use black boys, give them arms. As Frederic de Klerk said, if you give the black boy an independence or capacity to the means to rule himself, he will become tribalistic, he will pick the guns and shoot his own, and then nothing would happen. So their mind is still, they still have a very primitive mind. So I think that's where we find ourselves, and it's very regrettable, whether it's the military dying or it is Amber Boys dying. I have always said it, and you know my hashtag, all life matters and justice for all the victims. So that's where we stand. We have people like myself who sit here in the diaspora, and they want to aggrandize themselves like those who are sitting in a 2D, pretending that they are working for the interest of the common man. No, they are not working for the interest of the common man. They are working for the interest of their progenies. They want to plant an hegemony. They want to propagate a certain system that will keep them in power and make them relevant for as long as it takes until the people of Cameroon will rise up and say, okay, it is over, and then it will happen like in Egypt, like in other places that has happened where dictators, or I don't know, my senior brother used a certain word. He said benevolent despot. So I don't know if Mr. Biya, who is supporting, is a benevolent despot or not. And he talks of a confederation. I don't know if Mr. Biya is in favor of a confederation as a benevolent despot, whereas we also already understand that Mr. Biya believes in the hyper-centralized system of government that was legated to us by the French Third Republic, or I don't know, the French Constitution, and that is what we have in several countries in Africa today. So, Leo, put your questions very precise. I know you are very meticulous in the way you do things, so that I don't start telling you people what I think, but I respond to your question. Thank you.
Recently, there was a resolution from the U.S. Senate condemning what is happening in Cameroon, calling on warring factions to get to table and find a possibility to negotiating an end to the ongoing conflicts in a reconciliatory mood. But many persons are asking why the international community seemingly always condemns. I'm sure they are going to come out in the days ahead to condemn what happened in Mautu and maybe Matazem and in Momo division. Do you think the international community is also playing some games with respect to what is happening in Cameroon?
Leo, that was a very brilliant question, and I am happy that you, as a very brilliant journalist, you are asking that question to somebody like myself. That you want to understand that all these resolutions don't mean a thing. They actually don't mean a thing, because when they have their interests, and if they want to make things happen, they will do it. They will go and take out people like Gbagbo. They will go and take out people like Gaddafi. They will go and support marches in places like Egypt. But when they have somebody who protects their interests, they would not say a thing. The thing is, there is a risk. There is a risk as far as Cameroon is concerned, because Cameroon is the port, is the gateway of the Gulf of Guinea, and they have not found a formula how to deal with that situation, because there's what we call a fire tensions or fire heads in that Gulf of Guinea that involves Chad, that involves Central Africa, that involves Gabon, that involves Equatorial Guinea. And then you also have the Northwest and Southwest region, which is burning, and Nigeria had already given a signal and telling them that no, we are not going to do another fire head in Nigeria by accepting what they so-called Ambazonia. And that's why you understand they picked up Ayub Tabe and his group and sent them back to Cameroon. So those are that is the reality that we are living, and we should not be lying to ourselves. But now, coming back to what we as Cameroonians, Anglophone and Francophone, should be doing, we should be able to tell our people the truth, because one thing that is happening is that I have never been part of Mr. Biya's government, and that anger, that vexation is still in me, and I was never part of Mr. Ayub Tabe's government, or Ayub, they call him Ayabacho or Chris Ano, and all those people who sit in the diaspora and vocify like me. You want to understand that, Leo, I have been telling you that there are many communities who have different problems. So the Anglophone problems has to go through an introspective analysis and questioning of the various communities and know what their problems are. I sent you an audio about the people from the Mbororo community, and you heard their doleances. They said they were being marginalized by Amba boys. But when you go to the Southwest region, they'll tell you that they are being marginalized by the people from the Northwest and Southwest region. I have never marginalized somebody from the Southwest region. I remain a very proud Abakwa boy, strong, tall, and saying everything that I say, and I'm ready to pay for that price. So we have to sit down, and as Anglophones, I'm not talking about what Ebako is trying to sell to you, not telling you that this benevolent despot that Dr. Ningwanyan, because that is an intellectual concept that they want to sell to our people. And the problem that we have today is that most of our intellectuals have been politically very dishonest, and as you can hear them, they'll come out with several concepts, and they came out with the concept of Tongtina and Sardina, divided the Francophones, and now they want to come out with a different concept to divide the Anglophones. It doesn't work like that. We have to sit here and tell our people the truth, Mr. Leo, and those of you, young journalists who are coming up, potential leaders of tomorrow at the home front, you should take that mantle and tell our people the truth and stop telling our people, speeding lies and aggrandizing people, giving them false hope. There is no way that the CPDM will accept a confederation. No. And that confederation...
That there have been more collaboration than ever before in these two regions. And again, that everything indicates that peace is getting its place, and that the forces of law and order, in fact, he equally applauded the efforts of the military and those who are in charge to maintain law and order in these two regions. We are again not surprised that the head of state, by his same speech, equally recalled to Cameroonians that this war has equally cost enormously, not only financially, but the number of lives. Which was just embarrassing is that the head of state is just settled again on one simple incident, the Kumba massacre. But now today we are talking of the Mautu massacre, the Mautu massacre around Mile 29. We have equally talked of the killing which took place in Bengui. We are equally talking of the killings within 1 week that has taken place in Matazen, some few meters away from Santa, a lot of those other issues. And in all these instances, we were equally thinking that the head of state could equally come back to tell us that just 1 week after his speech, that the things are not going as he thought they were. Because if we go to make on the evaluation of a whole year, and you just pocket or pick up one instance like that in Kumba, it simply means that you are not ruling the nation, and that maybe you are not even in command, you are not even informed of what is going on within Cameroon. What it's equally, again, when we, those who are more concerned and more involved, because I said Southern Cameroonians, wherever they are, house at least more than the capacity they used to host in normal time, which means that every Cameroonian is surely paying a dime for, in fact, what the crisis had caused. But can we be sincere to ourselves? For those who come out most often than not to set the military had its place and that only force can bring order, we have said several times, you will still mind with me that when you cite examples of where weapons have never solved a problem, people will tell you that Cameroon is specific and that this is Cameroon and Cameroon must bring order. We spoke of this in 2016. It was said in 2017. We are now in 2021. I believe it is equally time for those who thought or those who are thinking that force can bring order to equally try to take into consideration the other recipe which we have proposed. We said sincere dialogue remains the way out of this particular crisis, and many others have been evaluating the measure of national dialogue, which some upheld or were holding as the only ground where peace can return to Cameroon, and there they manufacture what they were calling, in fact, from the laboratory of the measure of national dialogue was what they called the special status, which all of us equally accepted that what was called the special status is simply a bag without a content. And then in an effort to fill the content, you remember that elections were held last December, and we have asked to what extent will this election solve the Anglophone crisis, and the results were just known before even they were carried out, that the CPDM won with outright majority. Is that the wish of the people? Do we need a representative assembly to solve the problem of a common man? Many will cry that the common man is suffering because they are not taking into consideration. There is no atmosphere of war. In most cases, that will consider the life of those whom we consider as the common man. They will continue to suffer a lot until the right decisions are made. When you have bad governance and that people who are called to rule a nation, thinks that ruling a nation is like They will be disgraced, or it is shameful for taking the opinion of the other opposite end because they consider them as oppositions. The others think like those who just want to criticize the state. Dialogue is the only way out until the government will sincerely conduct a dialogue without precondition. This one was not said by me. I believe very strongly that the U.S. Senate 1684 gave us an idea that there is a need for dialogue without precondition. In fact, the British House of Lords equally came out that there is a need for these two nations to develop and, in fact, to get into a dialogue. The House of Commons in UK recognized that there was Southern Cameroon with an internationally recognized boundary. This statement was re-echoed by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, while Cameroon celebrates its 50 years of independence. Can we accept the realities that Cameroon wants that Buea is the capital of Southern Cameroon, and he knows that Buea was the capital of British Southern Cameroon? These are just issues which, if we take into consideration, there is no need to sacrifice the life of a single being for purposes of political egoism. I simply feel that some people are thinking that Cameroon belongs to them. But one thing which I've always been insisting, that we will pass away, but the nation Cameroon will remain. What remains in our mind is, what legacy do you have when you leave that power, which you have been upholding for over 40 years? 40 years is too long a period. In English, it is equally or generally said that a fool at 40 is a fool forever. I don't think what the bedrock of the ruling party, within their laboratories or within their libraries or within their content or their memory, what new aspect will they innovate? There is a need for a new blood. There is even a need for the change within the CPDM party, which is ruling Cameroon. And I believe Dr. Nick Nguyen have made a lot of progressions within the CPDM ranks, though some people will not accept that at times if a party has failed, there is a need to rethink about the party and then put Cameroonians on the rail. There is a need for the head of state, if at all. Why not? To stop this killing, we need a sincere decision from the head of state. Why not to even resign by the end of the 31st of this January, so that Cameroonians can sit back together and try to make a new nation without in fact, one of the oldest leaders in the world cannot be Cameroon. This is not Cameroon. This was not Cameroon before 1982. And why these pieces of a nation that sounded united in its colors, in its diversity? What is the problem with religion? What is the problem with tribe? What is the problem with the language? These were things that have been instilled and instituted to divide Cameroonians. Today, we are fighting the same hand that was used to construct the same bad policies.
Okay, I don't know whether Paddy Asanga is online. Paddy, are you there? Seemingly, Padis may not take part in this edition of the program. But let me come back to you, Dr. Nick Nguyen. When we listen to Dr. Ako raise of these worries, these also signs and indications that there is need to fast-track the peace efforts already made in Cameroon.
Yes, there's need to fast-track these peace efforts by doing what we have to do to solve the problems. It's about truth, it's about love, it's about really facing the problem and solving it. Like I said, we heard about the Swiss talks, and I don't really know how far they are going, but it's the Swiss talks that will solve this problem in Cameroon. Okay.
Yes, but just saying that is a Swiss talk or maybe the Ghanaian talk, what are those measures that needs to be seen as taking place to get them work?
No, let's just put it this way. You know, on another platform, someone was asking, can the church, you know, be part of solving the problems? Can this? And I was, you know, I learn a lot from nature. So we have to travel from Bamenda to Bafoussam, and unfortunately, the road is not good. It doesn't matter the good intentions that the priests and the bishops and so on have to drive their beautiful car from Bamenda to Bafoussam. It's impossible because the contractor did not do a good road. So it comes to a point where there is something that has to precede everything. You know, there's that dinner table that has to be laid out for people to come to it. Mm-hmm. And it's the government that prepares that road. It's the government that is the contractor to make that road possible for cars to drive on. So what I'm saying is that The responsibility is that of the government now to make sure that we put in place the structure for having a genuine dialogue. Then everybody will come to that dialogue and express themselves, be they the church, be they the people abroad, be they the West Cameroonians here, be they Southwesterners, Northwesterners, be whoever. And this time around, it's a problem between Anglophones have to talk with government. You know, when we did the major national dialogue, we went and carried everybody from everywhere and came and met a plantain malaxé, you know, just to disturb the place. And we never faced the problem. Now let me restate the problem again and the solution very clearly in very simple terms. As you would have noticed when I talk, I'm very figurative in the way I talk, so that people can understand. The Anglophone problem is this naughty elephant that we need to bring down. And there is a special gun for shooting that naughty elephant that we crafted called the Major National Dialogue. And the bullet that we were supposed to put in that gun was called the form of state. And if you shot the elephant with that, the elephant would have gone down and would have been dividing the meat now. But unfortunately, someone decided to use the bows and arrows and did the wrong thing. And that's why the elephant is still going around rampaging and doing this thing. So we have to come to a point where we agree that the biggest problem that we need to solve is the problem of the form of state, and face that problem very squarely without fear or favor and deal with it. Once we deal with it, that will be that road from Bafoussam to Bamenda to Bafoussam that we were talking about. Then everybody will be able to hold hands and say this is the best way to do it, and we'll come out of this. That is it.
Okay, that is it. Atemi Bako, you think that these proposals is just what we expect in Cameroon, but also we've not had many politicians actually come out vocal on the increasing